Video blog time again. 12 weeks out from the British finals in October, which is good. So it's coming around quick. Just a quick, boring stuff about me first. Well, I'm 12 weeks out, as I just said, and things are going pretty well, actually. I'm really, really happy for once where I am now, as opposed to where I normally am. Yeah, normally I start quite heavy, but not in a good way, which means I have to diet on less food to pull it off quickly. I tend to stall like metabolically quite close. So often I'll post these progress pictures about 3 weeks out, and people say, "Oh yeah, you're looking good and on track," and then they'll see me on stage. Like, what the hell happened? And, well, simply because of my start point, it doesn't pay to start out of shape, because when I get to the 3-4 week out mark, my food is so minimal. I have to do more cardio. Metabolism crashes. And it's just really hard for me to chip away at that last bit of fat because I'm not fueling anything, and my metabolism isn't being fueled. My training suffers, and my cardio is just taking so much out of me. And weirdly, I don't get that hungry. It's shit. And it's this time I'm going for the higher carb, low fat approach. So protein's the same year round. And if anything, it's harder for me to maintain weight. My weight just going down, which is good. I feel hungrier than normal, which is good. Training recovery rate is the best it's ever been, which I'll get into in a bit with some of these questions I have. It's just really bizarre. I always thought, on paper, people say zero carb at breakfast, allows you metabolic programming, they call it. Allows you to utilize carbs around your training, blah, blah, blah. Eat more calories because your fats are higher. You become more satiated with your appetite because of the fats, blah, 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 blah. On paper, great. But for me, putting all my carbs around training, that's not a huge amount of carbs. What do I take away from that? Where's this metabolic stimulus coming from if my carbs are not there? Because, I'm no expert, but fats, as far as I know, I have a really limited factor on metabolism. So you always want that as high as possible. Eating more food, doing more training, doing less cardio. By far the biggest I've ever been at this far out, and way leaner than I've ever been as well. I weighed myself this morning, and I was 264 and a half, which means I've dropped 4 pounds in the last week. But it looks like I've dropped about 10 pounds. I just feel fuller, so I feel fuller and thicker, but the body fat's coming down, but the weight loss I'm seeing on the scale isn't translating to what I'm seeing in the mirror, which is all good. So far, I'm really happy. So yeah, boring stuff done. Training's going well, diet's going well, eating lots, getting leaner, blah, 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 blah. Right, let's go for some of these questions I put on Facebook earlier. If any of you have any questions, I said I'd go through them. So the first one I have is on Twitter from my good friend Dan Salvage, and he asks, really simple, good question. What carb source do you find best in and around your workout? Okay, at the moment, a nice slower digesting carb pre-workout. A lot of people use rice, cream of rice, baby rice. If I do that, I feel a bit tired halfway through, but I think maybe because of the blood sugar dip. I used to put fats in there to slow it down, but now I've taken the fats out because it's a lower fat diet, so I just use a much slower carb like an oats. Intra-workout, glycofuse every time, branch cyclic dextrin. Glycofuse is, my opinion, the best carbohydrate powder out there, end of, especially for intra-workout. And post-workout, I just have rice, just jasmine rice. That's my favourite type of rice. Digests extremely well. I can eat a large serving of it, no bloatedness. So yeah, goes down nicely. And then and that sort of hits the spot pretty well. Sorry, if I keep coughing, I've got a bit of sore throat. So this heat, I hate this heat, this humidity, just non-stop greasy, sweaty mess. It's not just me, so don't get like, you're gross. You're all sweating a lot. You know it. Right, question time. What have we got here? Right, here we go. I think I've got 18 questions. I'll try and go through them as quickly as I can. Right, this is from Daniel Graham. Hello, mate. When you start your contest prep, what do you prioritize in terms of losing body fat? Increase in energy expenditure or decreasing in caloric intake? Appreciate both our tools will eventually be used to some degree. So overall thoughts on striking the balance and what works for you? That's a great question. In the past, I would just increase cardio and drop calories at the same time. This time, I've actually increasing my training volume and frequency. So I'm actually being able to train 6-7 days a week by keeping my recovery rate as high as possible and periodizing my training throughout the week. So instead of it being heavy, smash it through the week, my training does this in the week. So I have like secondary days, I'll have like a secondary leg day, a few days after legs. So, it's nothing like mind-blowingly difficult to follow. It's just I'll train every body part sort of once, maybe some body parts twice a week, but I'll have secondary days. But I think the best way to do things is it's always good to just start with a little bit of cardio anyway. Just a small amount, maybe 20 minutes in the morning, 4 to 5 days a week. You should always maintain your weight. If your weight is staying level and you're eating just consistently, your diet's always the same, your weight's just nice and steady, anything you do, whether adding a day of cardio, dropping some carbs, or even increasing your training frequency, one of those will create a deficit and you will lose. That's the basis of it. So whichever you would prefer to do, would you prefer to burn 500 calories on the treadmill, or would you rather eat 500 calories less? I personally would rather eat it and do some cardio. Right, James Symmetry Cooper. I've got a subject, using words like bro, beast mode, smashing the gym, and so on. The word bro makes me want to slip my own eyes in half. It's the worst word ever. It's a swear word. To me, it's a swear word. It's acceptable in a text. If somebody goes bro in a text, I cringe a little bit. But when people say it in person, who aren't American, like, yeah, hi bro, I'm just like, fuck off. Just call me mate or something annoying. And people have like expanded on bro with brah. Don't call me that ever. Just mate, Luke, man, dick, whatever. Not bro ever. Okay. Well, you got beast mode. Doesn't exist. That's just training. Beast mode. Smashing the gym. That isn't that bad. But what I keep seeing is people writing these really overzealous statuses on Facebook, like, I've declared war on the iron. Simmer down. Just go and train and enjoy it. Don't declare war, because if the iron fights back, you're going to fucking die, because iron's pretty heavy. So just chill out, simmer down, enjoy yourself, bro. Enjoy yourself. But man, that is... I found a Coke with the names in it. They said bro on it the other day. It's becoming too mainstream. My son ever says call somebody bro. No, it's not allowed. Okay, training nutrition versus rest day nutrition. As in training day nutrition, I guess that's supposed to be. What's your views on keeping macros the same throughout the week? Do they lower on rest days, etc.? That's from Jamie Box. Yeah, I think they should always lower on rest days. You don't need if your energy expenditure is lower on a rest day, why would you have a higher calorie amount, especially from carbs, on a day when you're not expending those carbohydrates? In my opinion, that would hinder progress. You just eat for what you need, not for what you want. Especially when you're dieting off season. Again, I think it's better if you want to stay in shape. Just take some carbs out. If you're one of these intra and post guys who have their shakes, pre-intra and post shakes, obviously they're going to be taken out on training days. So your carbs are going to be lower anyway on a non-training day. But I think calories on a rest day, pull them down a little bit. Makes sense. It's just common sense. Sam Bennett. I know you're a fan of DC style training. Have you ever used volume? And another question, how would you approach improving a weak part? Yeah, I love DC training. Volume training, the word volume I think gets a lot of stigma, and so does low volume, but what does it really mean? Because somebody might see me train and think that's just what that is, volume. But what they don't understand is the way I look at my training, and it's the same with the Dorian Yates guys and the high intensity trainer guys. I only count my work sets. I don't count my work warm-ups as sets. I may do maybe squatting for like 25 minutes before I even reach my work set. So I've done like 6, 7 sets of squats, but I don't count any of those. I just count the last one where I give it all I have to give. That's what I count as my set. But a lot of people might count them all, and then that's a volume workout. And then others may, like I said, like myself, will count just the work sets and count that as their training. So volume, do I train volume? No. Do I train really low volume? No. Because I do both, because I only count my work sets, but I do a lot of sets because 99% of them are warm-ups. They're still hard warm-ups, and to some that might be considered a work set. I just don't take them quite to failure. I take them 3 or 4 reps short, bracket. I don't want to take anything away from my work sets, and I just count those. So volume is how people interpret their own training. So that's just my point of view. If you do 5 exercises for legs and you do 1 work set per exercise, that's 5 sets. But if you were to do 4 warm-up sets on 1 set, that's 25 sets. So you be the judge. You know, it's just all bodybuilding. It doesn't matter to me. You know, you just train as. I just like to give it all to my work sets and then move on. Throw in some intensity techniques here and there, rest pauses, drop sets, blah, 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 partials. But at the end of the day, it's just how you interpret your training. Another question, how would you approach your improving a weak body part? Let's just say, for example, you're doing... Firstly, the first thing I would do is probably add in a movement for it and take the volume away from other movements. Say you're doing chest and triceps. No, sorry, shoulders. Say you're doing shoulders and triceps. Your shoulders are a great dominant body part, but your triceps are quite weak. Instead of doing a marathon shoulder session and a little bit of triceps, you know, do your shoulder session, but take the volume or a movement away from that and use that volume up for tries. And then possibly later in the week, train triceps again and use them and just fill them up with blood. And also, I think a good way, say you've got chest is a weak body part. When it comes to arm day, it's a really good idea to use crossover movements, such as a close grip bench press, because when you're doing a close grip bench press, you're using a lot of chest anyway. And 3 days before, you were doing chest, and then you're doing chest again indirectly. So it's a good way to cross over body parts. If it's a smaller body part like rear delts or biceps, you know, it's a good idea to just fill them up with blood at the end of a session. So at the end of back, when your rear delts are quite warm, just fill them up with blood. That's a good way of doing it. If it's a leg movement, if your hamstrings are weak and your quads are strong, why are you putting more effort into your quad training? You know, I like to do hamstrings, quads, a hamstring, a leg movement, a quad movement, a hamstring movement. That's the way I sequence. So change your sequencing around. If your chest is weak and you do a lot of presses, try pre-exhaust. You know, just try to engage the muscle that much more. So if my chest isn't very good, I don't think. So I do a lot of fly movements and a lot of squeezing and get a lot of volume of blood in there first. And when I go and press, it's all chest. My chest completely, and that's a huge thing that's improved my own chest personally. So, you know, give it slightly, I wouldn't say give it more volume, but give it slightly more attention than you would the stronger body parts. So take some of the attention away from the stronger body parts and possibly throw in an extra session in the week, which is a different approach to the earlier session. So you're doing heavy close grip benches. We're talking triceps again. Heavy close grip bench presses, heavy dips, JM presses, a lot of pull down, press down movements. That's great for your primary movement. Your second day, just pump the shit out of them. Just fill them up with blood, engorge them with blood, and you'll get a lot better response than just doing the same thing. And also try and use different movements that focus on a different part of the range. If you're always doing things like this and pushing all the pull downs and nothing's working, try some stuff above your head. Get a stretch. Focus on the stretch. Same with every body part. Try and focus a movement on a different part of the range. And so with chest, try and exaggerate the contraction or exaggerate the stretch part of the movement. You might be pleasantly surprised because a lot of people just do their presses, that mid-range. They don't fully contract, fully shorten their pec, and they don't fully stretch it out. So, you know, that's what I do. I just become more methodical with the way I program my movements. How many grams of fat? This is from Cameron Coyd. How many grams of fat do you think is adequate to run on a high protein, high fat diet, carbs only around pre and post workout. That's how long's a piece of string sort of question. How big are you? What's your maintenance calorie intake? I can't really answer that question without working with you on that. I could say any number now. It won't be right, or it might be right. I really wouldn't know. Just keep an eye on your body fat, because you remember 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So a lot of people just overdo their fats. They wonder why they're not losing weight, because they're eating loads of fat. The fats are still calories, so just be wary on that. Don't, if you're getting fat, reduce them down. If you're not getting bigger, reduce them up, increase them up. Anthony Patrick McCartan, what's Carly's phone number? Pretty sure you're kissing your wife in your progress picture, mate. I think I'll tell you what, I'll message your wife her number and see what she says about that. You bellend. How you doing? Elliot Wise, how the hell does one with the calf genetics of a green bean go about growing them enough to proudly be able to wear shorts again? Any workout suggestions, frequency and load ideas would be great. Tar. Yes, I know the answer to this because I've done this myself and I do it with clients. Absolutely demolish the stretch portion of the calf. I mean, you're forever walking around on your calves, contracting them millions of reps a day, unless you're a fatty that sits on his ass all day. So you want to emphasize, like I was saying about weaker body parts, emphasizing the stretch. So one thing I have people do is I would get them to, they'll start with a 5-second stretch position on a rep. So they'll as they come down, 5 second at the bottom, stretch, really deep stretch, up, contract really hard, 5 second negative, 5 second stretch. I'll get them to that twice a week, just one movement. So whatever you're most comfortable with. I like doing on a leg press or a seated calf raise. So do one on a Tuesday and one on a Friday. And then the next week I'll get you to increase the stretch position up to 10 seconds, and then the third week up to 15 seconds, and you'll stay at 15 seconds. When you manage to be able to tolerate the pain of holding those 15 seconds and getting your 12 reps, it's horrendously painful, and that's when you reach the pain threshold of being able to manage the 15-second stretch for 12 reps with a decent weight, then I will start getting you to increase your poundage over time. So whatever you can manage for 12 reps with that 15-second deep horrific stretch, and then build up from that, I can guarantee your calves will grow. I can guarantee it. I'm not even I put money on it. It's so brutal and so effective. I didn't train my calf. I trained my calf when I did DC. I didn't train calves that much. I think I trained because this is one of the DC things is the 15-second stretch. I don't get people to start with that. But when I started DC, I didn't train calves. I trained calves once every 2 weeks because most of the time I was too white to train them after legs. So I put on about 2 inches on my calves, and I've got quite big calves, and it worked incredibly well. Just emphasize that stretch. It sucks, but it really does work. So give it a go. Benbow Row. Luke, how do you deal mentally with your training when in prep, in brackets, being in a deficit compared to your off-season? Obviously, strength being higher in your off-season. Sometimes it feels like a kick in the nuts, personally. When lifts, energy decrease in the prep, but you're striving to look peeled. During this phase, will you stick to the same principles of your sessions, example DC style, or incorporate plenty more supersets, drop sets, etc., etc., etc.? To be honest, me personally, I don't get that much weaker in a prep. I mean, I still pulling 7 plate deadlifts about 3-4 weeks out. And then when I started feeling weaker in myself because of your energy levels are so low, I started just not doing the really heavy stuff because you don't need to. It's about keeping it safe. So yeah, I would probably, gauge it yourself. If you're getting super weak from the beginning, you're doing it wrong. So you shouldn't really lose strength until the final stretch, and certainly I don't. But yeah, supersets, drop sets, slowing down the negatives, being more controlled with your movements, using more, as cliche as it sounds, you can get away with maybe using some more machines than barbells on certain movements that might be quite dangerous. Just keep safety as a fact. You're not building any more muscle, you're trying to maintain it, just engorge it with blood as much as you can. But no, in terms of being a kick in the nuts mentally, no, I find it's a different goal for me. I'm not trying to become stronger, I'm trying to look better. So just get if you can keep a logbook, if you track your progress like I believe most people should, when it starts becoming tough and you're mentally like, I can't do this, just get rid of your logbook. Follow the same program as you've been doing, but get rid of your logbook and just train safely. Train how you feel like you can train, because you're not trying to build muscle in prep. Well, at least not the later stages. So just keep it safe. That's my advice. But yeah, supersets, drop sets. I mean, I use drop sets in the offseason. I think they're great. So yeah, just be safe. Be safe. Use your brain. That's all you got to do. It's 99% of bodybuilding, believe it or not, is common sense. It is. Right, this is my good mate Johnny Reed. Metabolic damage and the truth behind it. How many shows can you do in 1 year optimally, in my opinion? Metabolic damage, does it exist? And the truth behind it. I think it might exist, but I believe it's been blown way out of proportion in the same way that overtraining has. I mean, you get these bellends. I mean, no offense to him, I don't like CT Fletcher. He annoys the shit out of me. He's like, there's no such thing as training, a motherfucker. So all he says is motherfucker, and overtraining is a not true motherfucker. It is true, but it's not as exaggerated as people believe it is. It's not so much overtraining, it's just more under-recovering. So if you're training 8 times a week, full steam, heavy reps, beating your logbook, you're going to burn out very quickly. You just need to periodize your training in the respect if you think overtraining is more under-recovering. So you just need to periodize things. And it's the same with nutrition. When you going back to the metabolic damage thing, I think a lot of people who will get in shape for a show, mentally you're burnt out at the end and you just want to eat pizza and shit and donuts, Krispy Kremes on pizza covered in ice cream, blended up with lard and just intravenous. You just want to eat, just go nuts. And I've done it and I've got fat. And then when you want to just level your weight out to just get in relatively okay shape, you have to eat a lot less just to be not fat, because you've just got piled on weight so quickly. So you're then starting your diet down here rather than up here. So you're having to eat a lot less food to get in shape than you would have had you been leaner in the beginning. So everyone's like, oh, well, I'm having to eat no calories to get in shape and last time when I dieted, I was eating twice as much. Yeah, but this time you started twice as fat because you're a greedy shit. So does it exist? Yes, I believe it does. But in the same pool as overtraining, I think it's been just way blown out of proportion. Every bikini girl has metabolic damage because they can't get in shape again. Stop eating Krispy Kremes. Just it's all common sense. Just don't get super fat after a show. If you get super fat really quickly, your insulin sensitivity is going to be shit, basically. And everything you eat is going to be, like hormonally, it's going to be a lot easier to gain more fat when you're at a certain level of body fat. And then you're going to have to eat less than you should have to lose the excess you've put on unnecessarily. And this is my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right, but this is just the way I see it. I think every coach should support their athletes after a show, wean them back on to a diet, coast their food back up with monitoring body fat, and then level out. Level out nice and lean, good weight gain, but good weight. And then you're at a good place to be. You'll probably be eating more that prep the next time you diet than you would have the first time, because your body's in a better starting position rather than being a fat shit. I know this from experience, because for the British last year, I started fat and had to eat fuck all at the end, which is why I looked terrible. And I could have turned around and said, metabolic damage. No. Too many Krispy Kremes. The strawberry ones. Right, how many shows can you do in a year, 1 year optimally? That's individual. I mean, look at Sean Roden. He won like 4 in a year, all in succession. I mean, I've done 2 this year, and I've got a 3rd one coming up. It depends how much of a break you have. I mean, if you do one diet and there's 3 shows in a row, I think that's a lot easier than spacing them out months at a time and dieting all year. But again, it's individuals, and I think it's a mental thing as much as it is physiological. So that's my opinion. How long is a piece of string? What's your opinion on manipulation of water sodium levels close to a comp? Lots say that it shouldn't be touched, whilst many more still cut water and sodium completely. You should really, and this is again just my opinion, If you're going to manipulate them, just manipulate one of them. If you do both, it's a disaster, because you got to remember sodium holds water in the muscle with glycogen. If you're missing sodium, your muscle will not be able to retain water, so it will just become subcutaneous. You'll look smooth. You won't be able to pump up backstage. But if you drop sodium completely but still increase your water, you may go flat. If you cut water but keep sodium in, that's, in my opinion, a bit safer if the sodium is still in the muscle. If you eliminate both, it's just going to go bad. I mean, try it, just do it now. Just cut your water and have no sodium for a day and look how much worse you look. But the odds are, if you've water loaded will just increase your fluid intake, and your natural, your aldosterone levels are higher, you're pissing out water regularly, but you're keeping your sodium in. When you reduce your water intake, you'll still be flushing out excess fluid, but the sodium should retain in the muscle. And if you get rid of sodium, you can always reintroduce it on the show day with a little bit of water. That fills people out pretty quickly. That's what I did last year. This is what Mark had me do. I was looking a bit flat. I was eating carbs, nothing was happening. I had a fair amount of salt and about 500 ml of water, and fill that quite quickly. But in my opinion, if you're going to mess around with one of them, mess around with the water a little bit more than your sodium. You need sodium in the muscle. Blah, blah, blah. What's your take on skip loading to kick your metabolic rate when cutting? If you do skip load, how much do you consume? I don't really know what skip loading is. I did a bit of reading on it. I think it's just eating loads of shitty carbs around training. Is that right? I don't know. I don't do it. I think once a week, I sort of do this anyway. I'll have like a refeed cheat meal after training on a Saturday or a Friday. So I'll train a body part and then have my higher carbs for the rest of the evening. I keep my fats very low, and I just eat a lot of carbs, and it tends to really fill me out, and I do drop a lot of weight from it. But to do it every day, I can't see it being good for you. It's like the whole if it fits in your macro stuff. Yeah, I don't agree with it. Can you look good doing it? Yeah. You can look good. Can you get ready for a show doing it? Get shredded and hard and grainy? No, absolutely not. Otherwise, people would have been doing that for years. If I could get shredded eating donuts and pizza or whatever, I would do it, and everyone would do it. But because it's tried and tested over the years that people, unless you're very metabolically gifted, just stick to your basics. There's nothing wrong with once a week filling up on Rice Krispie squares and Pop Tarts after a heavy leg day once a week when you're flat. Fine. And if you're already in shape, great, do it. It's just going to fill you out, increase leptin and ghrelin levels. But other than that, I personally don't like the idea of it. But then again, I'm not Ken Skiphill, and I don't know the method, so I'm not going to give my opinion on it so much. Does it work? He's proved it does. Because I don't know about it, I can't really give my opinion because I don't know too much about it. Right, when you have a weak point, say legs, hams, or calves, or something, even back, what exactly is your process? Again, we went through this earlier. If I had a weak back, I'd analyse parts of my back that was weak. Because your back's quite a vast muscle, a lot of people have weak traps, so I'd have a lot more upper back trap work. And if your lower lats were slightly weaker, then you just prioritise your lower lats during back training. Simply the way I do it. So your hamstrings were weak, I would train them before quads and again at the end. So sandwich hamstrings around quads. And calves, try that calf workout I told you about, and if that will work. But yeah, you just need to prioritize the weaker body parts. Don't prioritize muscles that are already really strong, because then your weaknesses will just keep even weaker, which is not what you want. Right, hi mate. Can you please explain the reasoning for consuming dry carbohydrates, example rice cake, to lose water and fat? How many litres of water should I drink throughout the day? And IFBB Pro does this in the last few days of his contest prep. Thanks. I can't imagine why eating dry carbohydrates would do anything apart from absorb some saliva. Which is like saying if you want to dry out, just keep spitting on the floor and you'll dry out. I mean, to me, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm not an IFBB Pro, so if it works for him, great. I think there's probably other factors at play rather than just eating rice cakes. Yeah, you can lose a lot of fat in rice cakes because they're about 3 calories a cake. But in terms of losing water weight by eating rice cakes, I can't see it. I don't know why that would lose any more water weight than another carbohydrate. And again, you need water for your body to take in the carbs. If you're having no water and just eating carbs, there's no excess water in the system. There's nothing to shuttle these nutrients into the muscle. There's nothing to convert this glucose into glycogen. So you need that. You need the water there. Yeah, I think that's just super old school. Eating dry toast to dry out. It just makes your mouth really dry. So all of a sudden you're like, I must be threaded because I can't fucking speak. Because your mouth's dry. It doesn't mean your body's dry. But that's just me. I've never been dry, so I might try it. Let me know what IFBB Pro said this. I'm going to speak to him because I want to know how to get dry. And if it means just eating rice cakes, I'll eat rice cakes all day. What training split / style are you implementing into your next prep? Still push-pull legs? To be honest, not this time. I'm going for more. I train my 4 days a week extremely heavy. And then the other 3 days are my secondary days where I will pump up or just engorge with blood a little bit more into my weaker areas. And the reason I'm doing that is because it means I don't have to do as much cardio. It means that my food's going to be utilised better. And it means my metabolism is going to be increased. I'd rather use the energy expenditure actually weight training and doing something I enjoy and getting a bit more out of it. And hopefully by increasing the hours in the gym, I will speed up the process of muscle maturity. So push-pull legs is great. I just wanted to try something else this time. I want to try. You hear a lot of guys like the John Meadows guys, like Justin Compton's been saying it 7 days a week, and he got in shape a lot quicker than usual and didn't have to do a lot less cardio. And that sounds great to me because I would much rather spend my time training than on a stepper. So that's what I will be doing this time. So yeah, about 6-7 days a week. 7 days a week if I have the time. 5 days a week minimums, but 6 days a week is what I'm aiming for. Dallas Massey, how's it going? Do you believe lowering volume during your off-season training will help somebody who's having trouble put weight on, as far as the amount of sets, exercises, and keeping the number of reps low? Yeah, I do, because it's again down to the energy expenditure. If you're training 7 days a week for a contest, you're doing that because you want to expend more energy and get in shape quicker. But by doing less volume, you're not expending as much energy into the training, and your food is going to be utilised for what it should be, which is building muscle rather than burning body fat. So yeah, I definitely lowering the volume, pushing some heavy weights, making sure you're getting a lot of crossover movements like your shoulder presses on your shoulder days. Arm day, put your close grip bench press in, so you're getting so everything's crossing over. But yeah, higher volume, 7 days a week off season. It's just going to burn through a shitload of calories that you could be using to grow. And that's just my opinion. So in terms of keeping your reps low, it doesn't have to be low. Just mix them up. Certain movements benefit from a lower rep range, like a deadlift or a squat. Maybe not a squat, but a deadlift, certainly. Incline dumbbell presses, you can get away as low as 6 reps of that. I sometimes do 4 or 5 reps with deadlifts. But then something like a leg extension, you wouldn't do 2 reps on or 4 reps because it's just dangerous. And same with the dumbbell fly. So yeah, depending on the movement, depending on the safety factor involved, just change your rep range around that. Ash Adams, how's it going, man? Hey, bro. What do you think you could? How big do you think you could get your face cheeks to look when you're in full off season, smashing up the gym, crazy gorilla, go nuclear on its ass, Iron Warrior beast mode, and when you're coming home to Bournemouth for a visit? I will declare war on the iron, crush it, go to war with the iron, with my iron fist of death, and get the biggest hamster checks ever, bro. You can count me out, fam, bro. Myron, I can do that shit. I don't know what I just said, but I don't know when I'm coming to Bournemouth either. Hopefully soon, because I miss it. So, but yeah, that's all my questions I've had so far. So thanks everyone for actually chiming in with some questions. I sometimes write this status saying, anyone got any questions, I'll answer them. No, I think I'll get nothing and make myself look like a dick. And I haven't. So thank you. But yeah, that's it for this week. This is pretty long video. This is 35 minutes nearly. And so, longest video yet. So, I'll try and keep them shorter, but you guys had a lot of questions. Hopefully I answered them. I just gave my opinion. I'm no expert. I just give my opinions and that what works for me, what works for clients that I work with, and when I just want to help somebody out who wants to know what I do and the way I do things. And it's just, I think in this sport, I think it's a really good idea to give what you've learned and pass it around, because people are like, yeah, it's all drugs. No, it isn't. I'll tell you it isn't. It's not. Because if it was, then it would be much easier to be big and shredded than it is. So, just keep training, keep eating, adjust things accordingly. Don't be a meathead, use your common sense, and you will reach your goals. So that's as simple as that. That's what I've done. And I haven't reached them, but I'm getting closer every day. So anyway, I'll wrap this up now because it's really long and you're probably falling asleep. And I've got a week. So, all right, thanks very much, and I'll see you probably next week. Cheers, guys. Thank you.